Welcome back to N's NotebookLM. Today we're going to talk about something that's, well, it's pretty much invisible. It's the world of artificial estrogens, or estrogenics. We're talking about chemicals that are woven into the very fabric of our daily lives, and they might be affecting our health in ways we haven't even begun to imagine.
So, to really get a handle on this, let's just walk through a totally typical morning. You're going to be surprised, I think, at how many of these chemicals we bump into before we've even had our first cup of coffee.
All right, first stop, the shower. It feels like the cleanest, healthiest starts of the day, right? But ironically, this is often where our first exposures are just waiting for us. The very products we trust to get us clean can actually be a major source of chemicals our bodies just soak right up.
And the secret? Well, it's hiding in plain sight in those rich, satisfying suds from our soaps and shampoos. The source points to chemicals called alkyl phenols, or APEs for short. Thing is, they're often not even listed on the label. And because they're fat-soluble, they can absorb it straight through our skin. So that nice hot shower, it can become a direct delivery system.
Okay, so we're out of the shower, and what's next? We do something that feels super healthy, right? We put on lotion or sunscreen to protect our skin. But here's the twist. The very products we use to create a barrier are often designed to penetrate that barrier, taking these unwanted chemicals right along with them. And here's the catch. A lot of common chemical sunscreens and products with fragrance, they are just loaded with estrogenics like benzophenone, parabens, and phthalates. And get this, these chemicals are literally designed to sink into your skin to work. They're carrying all their hormonal baggage right in with them.
And, of course, what's a morning without that first glorious cup of coffee? For so many of us, it's a non-negotiable. But even this simple daily ritual can come with an unwanted chemical kick. And it all depends on how you make it.
Yeah, how you brew really matters. If your coffee maker has plastic parts, or you're drinking out of a plastic cup, and yeah, even a BPA-free one, you could be getting a dose of plastic-derived estrogenics. And heat makes it all worse, causing those chemicals to leach out. So your hot coffee might be serving up a lot more than just caffeine.
Okay, so we've found them in our soap, our sunscreen, our coffee cups. They're everywhere. But what are these things really? What are these artificial estrogens that have worked their way so deeply into our lives? So think of it like this. Your body cells have these little things called receptors, and they're like tiny radios, all tuned to one specific station, the hormone estrogen. Well, estrogenics are like pirate radio signals. They jump on that frequency, they hijack it, and they start broadcasting faulty messages. And because these estrogen receptors are in nearly every single cell in your body, well, you can imagine the system-wide confusion that causes.
The source actually lays out a top 10 list of these culprits. And what's really striking is just how different they all are. We're not talking about just one type of chemical here. It's everything from atrazine, an herbicide in our tap water, to phthalates that make plastics soft, and even the artificial red dyes in our food. They come from totally different places, but once they're in our bodies, they all have the same disruptive effect.
All right, so they're everywhere. We get it. But what's the big deal? What are the actual health consequences of being exposed to this stuff day in and day out? Why should we care?
Well, the source breaks down the effects into something it calls the 7 deadly things. And it's really like a chain reaction, a domino effect. It all starts with that hormonal disruption we talked about. From there, it can lead to things like unexplained weight gain and mood issues, and can eventually snowball into some really severe long-term health risks.
And this is where it gets really stark. The hormonal impact is, well, just look at this chart. Since the 1940s, average testosterone levels in men have plummeted. I mean, they've basically been cut in half. And that staggering decline happens to line up perfectly with the explosion of these artificial chemicals into our world.
And look, this isn't just a guy problem. Low testosterone affects women's health too. The bigger picture here is this widespread hormonal chaos. It's being linked to all sorts of issues, from girls starting puberty way earlier than they ever used to, all the way to a phenomenon that scientists are now calling the feminization of males.
Okay, I know. Hearing all this can feel completely overwhelming. But here's the good news, and the source is really clear on this. You're not powerless. Simple, conscious choices can make a huge difference. So let's talk about some practical things you can actually do to lower your exposure starting today.
Look, this isn't about being perfect overnight. It's about making small, smart swaps. Instead of that scented detergent, go for fragrance-free. Ditch the plastic water bottle for a glass or stainless steel one. Switch out your chemical sunscreen for a mineral-based one with zinc.
The source also suggests taking a look at major plant-based estrogen sources in your diet, like soy and flax, and deciding if you want to cut back. Here are a few more simple steps that can have a really big impact. First, filter your drinking water. An activated charcoal filter is a great option. Second, make it a hard rule in your house: never ever heat food in plastic. And finally, try to prioritize fresh, whole foods. That helps you sidestep that whole cocktail of chemicals that often comes with highly processed and packaged stuff.
Okay, and now we get to what might be the most important point of this entire discussion, because this isn't just about our own health right now. This is about the health of the generations that come after us.
This all comes down to a really fascinating field of science called epigenetics. It's not about changing your actual DNA code. Think of it more like putting little sticky notes on top of your DNA. These notes tell your genes whether to turn on or off. And here's the absolute kicker. Those sticky notes, they can be passed down to your children and grandchildren.
And honestly, this is the most sobering finding of all. Research is showing that when animals and humans are exposed to these estrogenics, the problems don't just stop with them. Things like infertility and increased disease risk can be passed on to the next generation. And in some cases, the problems actually get worse as they're passed down. So this totally changes the conversation, doesn't it? It goes from being about personal health to this really profound question about the kind of legacy we're creating. What are we passing on to our kids and their kids? If this topic has captured your interest and you'd like to dive deeper, the book is called Estrogeneration: How Estrogenics Are Making You Fat, Sick, and Infertile by Anthony G.J.